Welcome to Inside Richmond, the official podcast of Richmond Rugby Club. Today we're joined by the founder and managing director of club partner Bentley Holmes and a passionate member of our famous Richmond Heavies, Grant Holmes. Grant, a huge welcome to the show. How are things? How are you coping during the latest lockdown?
Hi, Tom. Yeah, as well as I think anyone can be at the moment. It's obviously difficult times for everybody, but hopefully there's a bit of glimmer of hope that we'll see the back of this and see some normality for everybody, and just be nice to see friends and familiar faces in person going forward again, won't it?
Yeah, fingers crossed. I think we all need a bit of good news and positivity and get back to rugby when we can and get everyone back to Richmond. So yeah. Fingers crossed. Most of you that are watching will know Bentley Holmes. They've been a loyal sponsor of our club for a number of years. The company logo features on the back of our men's first team shirts, which is fantastic. You've also been a match and ball sponsor on many, many occasions. You enjoy hosting lunches and so forth in the bar. But Grant, obviously, in other words, like all club partners, without your support, we wouldn't be able to do the things that we do. So a massive thank you before we get into our chat for your continued support, obviously, during such a difficult and challenging time.
Thank you.
Now, before I ask you who's the best and worst Richmond Heavy to tour with, we will get to those questions in a bit. Let's chat about your business. For those that don't know, can you sort of touch on what Bentley Holmes does?
So I set up Bentley Holmes in 2008, having come out of the city. I worked for a large number of businesses up there. Set up some pretty big brokerages. The Bentley part is actually my mother's maiden name, so it was really important to me to have a name and a brand that meant something to me and to my family. And since then, we've grown the business organically, and we've now got 6 advisors here at the business, and we do around about 200 million in lending in the marketplace.
So what areas of that sort of business do you work in?
So there's 2 areas in the main. We work on in the mortgage market and also in the protection market. So things like life assurance. In mortgage market, we'll help anyone from first-time buyers. That might include someone who's looking at shared ownership or help to buy. We then look at remortgages, people moving home. We have buy-to-let landlords. We have someone who's buying their first buy-to-let, or they might have a small portfolio. And we also do things like equity release. So older clients who don't want to leave their home but need some cash, we have ways of helping them get their hands on some money as well. And then on the protection side, we help clients cover all aspects of debt and protecting their family needs. So if a loved one was to pass away, making sure the mortgage is covered, potentially loss of income, things like that.
Yeah, and I guess the big one, which lenders do you work with?
So across the board, we pretty much work with everybody. The old days, you used to be able to say you were independent, but technically there's the odd obscure lender that only allows a consumer to go directly. So every broker now has to say they work off a panel of lenders. We have the largest panel that's available in the marketplace, and that panel would have all of the big high street brand names that everyone would expect to be on there. We do lots of work with some of the more obscure building societies. They're quite active in areas like holiday buy-to-lets and holiday homes. We do quite a lot of that work. And then we also have access to all the private banks. And that's something that a lot of brokers don't necessarily have. But I've been around a long time, worked with a lot of the private banks, and they do some deals that, quite often the high street lenders just can't cope with.
It's obviously quite a massive market at the best of times, but I guess looking at the last 12 months, how has it been?
It's been quite interesting, because when this time last year, we just sort of come through confirmation of knowing that Brexit was now at least resolved in that we knew we were leaving. Tory government was set in stone now, so we knew who our government was. So we really started at the beginning of last year seeing a lot of activity, particularly on large London property prices. So really anything 2 million and upwards. That market had been very quiet for the couple of years before. That became very, very active. And then weirdly, COVID suddenly took a bit of a hold. Knew about it around the world, but hadn't really affected us here. And of course, suddenly we go into lockdown in March. I thought we'd see a lot of people pull out of transactions when this first happened, but actually all of our clients continued with those purchases. They obviously had to wait until valuers could go and do valuations. But most of those people moved in the summer. And once the stamp duty land tax nil rate band was increased to £500,000, that really put a lot of appetite into the market. Lots of people looking to restructure the way they work from home, move away, don't need to go into London anymore. So that really, really ignited the market. So we've actually been really, really busy right through the last 12 months. Be interesting to see what happens regarding stamp duty going forward, of course.
Yeah, and obviously, yep, stamp duty. Is there any news on that being extended, the deadline?
So interestingly, it started with a petition going out where there was 20,000 votes at the start. Government had to respond to a petition at 20,000, and the initial response was, we're not looking to do anything. That petition has grown and grown. It's gone over 100,000 last month, the Monday just gone. And because of that, it now has to be debated in Parliament, and it's being debated on the 1st of Feb. So we'll get a better idea after that debate as to what they're going to do. Personal thought is that they will possibly look to allow anyone that's exchanged contracts and committed to a purchase on and before the 31st, they will benefit from the stamp duty nil rate band. I don't think they'll extend it as much as I think we'd like to see them do it. But if you were completing on the 31st and someone in your chain got COVID, you can't move home and then suddenly you lose out on the stamp duty. That doesn't quite seem fair. So there's lots of positive arguments being put forward by members in our industry, and hopefully the government will take a really good view on it.
Yeah, as you say, obviously a really interesting time, and with everything else going on, what do you really think the rest of the year holds for this industry?
It's difficult to say. I think let's assume stamp duty isn't extended. I think there would be an initial lull probably in April, and it'll quite down. Actually, ironically, you've got Easter. We might be allowed to do things that we haven't been allowed to do. So people might be more concentrating on let's just go and have a bit of fun and not worry about things like moving home. But then I think all of the things that everyone's been talking about, how do I now live? Do I need to extend to have, not fighting over the kitchen table and who gets to do their Zoom call when we're both trying to, lots of people are going to still work in the same way they are now. And it may not be 5 days a week, but it certainly might be 1 or 2. And so I still think the property market will be pretty active, whether that's people still looking to move or whether it's people looking to extend their homes. But I think we'll still see a fairly positive year in the property market.
Yeah, and you did mention protection and life insurance. Can you tell me more about this?
Yeah, so weirdly, if you go back a long time ago, you used to have a life insurance policy attached to your mortgage, and the regulator changed the way that worked, and it was actually down to the consumer whether they wanted to take something out. And over time, naturally, people, if they're not told they have to do something, quite a lot decide not to run with it. And so more and more people have just moved away from putting life cover in place. But actually, since COVID's hit and there's been a lot of tragedy around it, and it's certainly definitely affected, I would say everybody. Everybody must know of somebody that's been affected and possibly lost somebody because of it. And because of that, people are a lot more aware of their mortality. So I think people are realizing that actually things can happen very, very quickly. and ensuring that you know your mortgage is paid off. Loved ones aren't in a situation where they've got a horrible situation to deal with. We are certainly seeing a lot more clients now wanting to talk about having the right protection needs in place, whether that's in the event of death or whether that's just ill health. The insurance companies have also now started looking at more research around things like COVID. So they all ask about whether you've been for COVID tests, have you had COVID? So that's now in all the applications. So it's definitely here to stay, and I think people are aware of that. And as we all know, the Richmond Heavies Foundation was founded on the back of three of our dear friends who very sadly passed away close together, and all taken away from us at far too young an age. And so we all know personally people that have lost loved ones, and I think we've all just become a bit more aware, actually, that extra 20 or 30 quid a month is really well spent.
Absolutely. A fascinating insight, Grant. Thank you so much for providing that for us. Your website, it's www.bentleyholmes.com. I'm going to put it on your screens now. It will also be below this video on YouTube and on our website, of course. I'll provide a bit more info at the end of this interview, but please get in touch with Grant, and obviously a massive supporter of ours at Richmond. And yeah, just go check his website out. Right, enough about work. Let's talk about Richmond.
Yeah.
And some of you will know you are a current playing heavy, but can you sort of tell us a bit more about your playing career? When did you first start playing at the club?
I actually joined the club in 92, 93. I was a fortunate one to play in John Kingston's undefeated under-21 side. A couple of the Hevs that I play with now were in that side as well. And so that was when I first came to the club. I sadly got quite a bad knee injury, and so wasn't at the club for very long, only a couple of years. And so that was when I very first came to Richmond, and loved the club when I first came. That was great.
You're now part of the Heavies. How long have you played for the Mighty Heavies for?
I came back in 2012, so a little bit faster and a little bit slower, but came back, joined the Heavies in 2012, and just been privileged to be part of it ever since.
Some of those memories with the Heavies, I can imagine there's quite a number, but any of your fondest that really stand out?
Well, most people know for me, touring is the thing I love to do best. Rugby is just an amazing game. It's a wonderful sport, and been very, very fortunate to play it from a young age, and fortunate to still be able to run around the pitch. And just going on tour just means you learn so much about your friends, and of course you make some amazing new friends all around the world. And so I've been very fortunate to go to some pretty amazing places.
Some of those places, where have you been on tour?
Heavies have got a pretty good tradition on doing some pretty long haul tours. Try and do a long haul and a short haul in a season. But we've been to Aspen, Cape Town. When I was skipper, I was able to take us all to Buenos Aires, which was amazing. But probably my favourite place of all is the Dubai 10s. So go out for that every year, and sadly missed that December just gone, obviously with COVID. So praying we get back there in 2021.
Absolutely. I'm going to ask you some further questions in a minute, but you touched on being the heavy skipper. Can you sort of speak about that role and how you found it, and what was the best and maybe the worst part of being a heavy skipper?
It's an incredible honour. I mean, it's just phenomenal to have been given the opportunity, and it's amazing to think that your colleagues and friends, comrades are putting their faith in you. Worst bit, not winning the league. That's just absolutely the worst thing that could ever happen to a heavy skipper, because there's so much tradition and history. So I'll never get away from that one. Probably the best memory for me as heavy skipper was heading out to Buenos Aires and taking, I think, possibly one of the biggest touring parties we've taken for a long time. And yeah, that was just amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yep. Speaking of touring, and I mentioned that at the top of the interview, who is the best tourist that you've traveled with?
Always going to say yourself, aren't you? I'm actually going to say somebody who's sadly not with us anymore, but Stephen Fenn, Bosch, as everyone would know him, he was just one of the most incredible tourists. And yeah, I shared many a flight, shared a room with him on occasions. He would undoubtedly always be top of my list. Absolutely brilliant guy to tour with. Sadly missed.
And the worst tourist that you've traveled with?
Definitely myself. We all think we're the best tourists, don't we?
Yeah.
But we're always the worst, aren't we? Everyone else, look, probably not fair to say anybody else, but yeah, I'll put myself up for that one.
Yeah, nominate yourself, the easy option. Are there any sort of mottos that the Heavies live by?
Yeah, I mean, the best one is you don't go on tour to lose weight and save money.
Oh, brilliant! That should be your tagline, I think, going forward.
It might go on the tombstone, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Very good. Before we sort of wrap things up, and for any of the old, any sort of rugby players out there who've given up, they've put their boots up after maybe a few years playing, but now want to get back into rugby. They still think they can score that try down the wing or make that huge tackle, or just, get together and have a beer and go on tour. Why is the Richmond Heavies the best place for that?
Well, I think Richmond as a club is just a phenomenal club. Fortunately, having played quite a high level when I was young, I did actually have trials at a number of decent clubs, and I chose Richmond as the club I wanted to join because the feeling around the club, the family orientation, was by far better than anywhere else I've been. There's such an amazing community spirit, whether you're a player, whether you're a spectator, whatever involvement you have at Richmond, I honestly don't know anywhere else that has the same feeling that we have at Richmond Rugby Club. And if you want to put your boots on and come out and have a run around, then, great club to do that for. And, if you want to come and have a few beers and join the Heavies in Heavies Corner, then always welcome to join us down there and again, join the fun. It's just a great privilege to be part of an amazing club. It really is.
Well said. And like all of us, we can't wait until we can get back to the club. Hopefully it will be at some point this year. Grant, thank you so much for your chat today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
And
just from my side as well, can I just say a big thank you to all those that have used our services and continue to do at the club. There are lots and lots of people that have got in touch with us and we've helped, and we're very, very grateful for everybody that comes to us. And even if we can just point people in the right direction, sometimes we're here to help, and we're really grateful for all the business we get from the club. So thank you.
Fantastic. And I'm going to point everyone's direction now to Grant's website. It's going to flash on your screen now. It's www.bentleyholmes.com. But if you've watched this interview and you want to get in contact with Grant straight away or want to have a chat, please either, ring him. The phone number is on the website, or drop him an email, which is grant.holmes@bentleyholmes.com. And Grant will be there to have a chat.
Look forward to it.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much again for your time today. Please continue to do your fantastic work and keep safe. And I think the same applies to everyone watching, all the Richmond members and supporters. Thank you so much for your continued support. yeah, please keep positive during this lockdown. I know it's difficult, frustrating, and we all can't wait to welcome you back to the Rag as soon as we can. But from Grant to myself, this has been another episode of Inside Richmond, the official podcast of Richmond Rugby Club. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Tom. Thanks, everyone.